The date is November 2021, and Alex Pereira is about to make his Octagon debut on the biggest stage in mixed martial arts. For months now, the media has been making a storm about the man, since he's the only person to knock out then UFC champion Israel Adesanya in kickboxing. But could he transfer that same skill to MMA? Is this really the guy to stop Israel Adesanya's reign as UFC middleweight champion? Well, fast forward, only training partner, not once, but twice. Becoming a 2-division world champion of a major combat sport once again. Alex Pereira is truly special. But what makes Alex Pereira so good? Why are we now talking about if he's legitimately a top 5 UFC fighter of all time? Is it his deadly left hook that can threaten the life of anyone in this entire world? His humility and stone-cold demeanor that ends up exalting him past all his other challengers when he's finished with them? Yes, well, there are a bunch of reasons for his success. His strike efficiency is often overlooked. But what if I told you that this striking efficiency isn't just good, but among the entirety of the UFC roster and its history is actually one of the greatest of all time? A few weeks ago, Alex Pereira committed a murder. But he didn't just commit a murder on Jamal Hill. He committed a murder on the literal foundation of this YouTube channel. A detailed explanation going through all the math and intricacies that make Jamal Hill, the former UFC light heavyweight king, Alex Pereira's toughest opponent in his entire MMA career, and he just walks right over him like Jamal's just some other guy making his professional debut. You could argue that this fight against Hill was his easiest fight in the UFC, and if you look at the stats, you wouldn't even be wrong. Despite Hill's reputation as a high-output boxer with fast hands, Pereira only allowed him to land a measly 14% of his head strikes. With an astonishing 80% significant strike accuracy at UFC 300, Pereira displayed a level of precision that bordered perfection. It was the most accurate he's ever been. But before you start saying his strike accuracy was high because he landed a lot of grounded head strikes when he was going for the TKO, it's worth noting that his grounded strike accuracy was actually lower than his distance strike accuracy. But let's trace Alex's career back even further. Remember Israel Adesanya, the former Glory kickboxer, UFC middleweight champion, and Alex Pereira's former rival? Remember how he was dominating the 185ers so badly that he literally introduced the concept of lapping a division, using this same refined kickboxing style? If you trace his strike distribution for his entire UFC career, then you can truly appreciate how balanced Izzy's approach really was. But then there's Alex Pereira. In his short 8-fight UFC career, Alex Pereira has shown more efficiency and more balance than his long-reigning adversary. But why is Alex's strike efficiency so much more impressive than Israel Adesanya's? Because Alex Pereira has achieved these stat lines not just in the middleweight division, but in the light heavyweight division as well. At middleweight, his strike efficiency was pretty decent, landing his strikes at around 59%, mainly courtesy of his long fights with Izzy. But at light heavyweight, it's even better, because after moving up in weight class and fighting Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prochazka, and now recently Jamal Hill, 3 former UFC light heavyweight champions, Alex Pereira's strike efficiency went from that 59% at middleweight to a jaw-dropping 72%. Achieving this efficiency all while on the feet against people around your size is pretty crazy. But it gets even better. This is a graph of significant strike accuracy over cage time for every single UFC light heavyweight that's fought in 2023. Down in the lower echelon, you get some fighters that have had some rough fights this year. Keep climbing and you start seeing some more familiar faces. And as you get closer and closer to the top, you start seeing some of the top dogs in the light heavyweight division. Yuri Prochazka and Jan Blachowicz start popping up somewhere, despite their mixed results to Alex Pereira. And as we reach the apex of this stat line, the fighters that really stand out on this list are Ion Cutelaba, Magomed Ankalaev, Kennedy Nzechukwu, and Alex Pereira. Yet despite this graph showing significant strike accuracy, It's very misleading. Grounded strikes really muddy the water on this stat line and distorts what we're really trying to look for here. So if we just limit our graph to significant distance strikes, then it really becomes a competition between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. But why is Alex Pereira's strike efficiency much more impressive than Magomed Ankalaev's, despite Magomed having the higher accuracy? Alex Pereira not only fought better competition in 2023, but Alex has over 30 more minutes of cage time than Magomed Ankalaev. Pretty impressive stuff. And yet despite this mastery of kickboxing and technical precision, this isn't even Alex Pereira's best stat line. I was browsing through the UFC stats website recently, and I had to take a look at the significant strike accuracy leaderboard. And what I found was pretty cool. Among the all-time most accurate fighters in the UFC, Alex Pereira ranks among the top 5, only falling short to Tatiana Suarez, Anthony Hamilton, and Alistair Overeem by almost 12 percentage points. Yet it doesn't stop there. If we were to graph this chart for all the fighters that have fought over 5 UFC fights, and with a slight variation from the 350 significant strike attempts to instead be 350 significant strike lands, then Alex Pereira is now the second most accurate striker in the UFC. Again, falling short to Alistair Overeem. But here's the catch. In the later parts of Alistair Overeem's UFC career, he was using a lot of wrestling and taking down his opponents only to unleash his relentless ground and pound. This doesn't give his opponents much room to breathe, as they can't really dodge any of these blows and are forced to cover up. So if we remove him from the equation, then Alex Pereira now stands as the most accurate striker in the UFC for all its weight classes. Alex Pereira's striking is really a thing of beauty. He may not be the most defensively sound fighter, but what he lacks in defense, he really makes up for in his offense. His leg kicks seem to catch even the best kick checkers off guard. His deceiving body shots that end up setting up his deadly left hook. It's truly a work of art. Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold, and yes, of course, Israel Adesanya all have had some rough debuts when moving up to the light heavyweight division. But Alex Pereira, on the other hand, has had so much success, achieving 2 division champ status, fulfilling all the revenge arcs, and all while having the most efficient striking against top-level talent. Alex Pereira's UFC career may be in its twilight years, but for however many more years he continues fighting, he's already cemented himself as an all-time great. Even though with each passing fight, his chances of continuing to win seem less and less likely, you know I'll be rooting for him until that day comes. And for my Brazilian fans, Chama. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like the content, feel free to subscribe, like and share the video, or leave a comment down below for discussion. And as always, see you in the next one.